In this Young Outcast podcast episode, the co-host Rohan explores and shares insights about his own fall and rise journey. Born in India, the host describes a childhood influenced by cultural expectations and peer rivalry, which modeled his ambitions and perception of self-worth in terms of academic achievement. However, in college, this mindset led to an internal struggle and feelings of loneliness, propelling him to rethink his life values. His view of success evolved from traditional corporate success to making a positive impact on others. He credits his turnaround to a supportive friend and a gradual maturing process. This is a powerful narrative about self discovery, personal growth, and importance of a support system.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Young Outcast podcast. In the last episode, we covered a little bit about, or I guess a lot about Davide's story and his rock bottom. And in this one, we'll be diving a little bit more into my rock bottom and my fall and rise journey.
Very excited to not speak too much this time and leave to you the floor. And as we do with all the guests, we are exploring the fall and rise journey, and so understand like how the stigma, the pain of the rock bottom, if depowered, can really be leveraged for the upcoming growth in our journey. That is a roller coaster, and so I'm happy that this time we're gonna like guide Rohan through his journey and get it back to the present.
Yeah, I guess let's get started. So a little bit of a snapshot about my story and who I am if you aren't familiar. So I was born in India in the city of Hyderabad, pretty big city, fourth biggest city in India, I believe, by population. My parents come from the state of Andhra Pradesh. So they speak the language of Telugu, if you're familiar with that language. It's a state in South India, South Central India, and there's a lot of Telugu people. I think our total world population is something like 300 million. So yeah, pretty big group of people. My parents grew up in a little town outside of the city, and yeah, they immigrated. They moved to Hyderabad when my dad got a job. I was born in Hyderabad. And then my dad had the opportunity of coming to the U.S., moving to Houston back in 2001 or 2000, I believe, when I was really just around 1 or 2 years old. So I basically grew up here in the U.S., grew up in the city of Houston, and then moved briefly to Lansing for a couple of years before I moved back to Houston. And then, yeah, ever since grew up from K through 12 here in Houston, in Katy, Texas, a suburb outside of Houston. Then went to school at the University of Texas at Austin. And yeah, my fall and rise journey really begins, I would say, in my college journey. I grew up pretty privileged, I would say, in the suburb of Houston. Had the opportunity to go to school without any worries about financial concerns or anything like that. But one of the biggest things I would say about growing up Indian American is that your parents put a lot of pressure on you. I was lucky and fortunate enough for my parents to really not have those expectations and that pressure on me growing up. I would say that's a little different from the typical Indian American experience. I would say my parents wanted me to perform well, but they didn't have that expectation that I needed to be a doctor, a lawyer, or engineer, or do any of those things that the typical Indian American or the typical Asian American talks about. What was really crazy about my story is it's really difficult to talk about my journey without talking about this one person. And I think a lot of people who knew me growing up would know about this person. But essentially, he was my rival. It's kind of weird to say that, like it's like an anime, but no, he and I pushed each other. I don't know about his perspective, because to be honest, we don't have an unhealthy relationship. We have an unhealthy relationship, but we don't have like a actively talking relationship. So essentially, like he and I pushed each other. We competed throughout elementary, middle school, and high school. Our parents were friends. Our brothers were around the same age. We met each other back in like fourth or fifth grade, I would say. And what was really crazy was he was also of South Indian heritage. And we were constantly compared to each other, whether it was our friends, whether it was our families, or whether it was each other. And that was where I was pushing myself, always trying to like reach him and to beat him, to be as competitive as him, to do the things that he did. And I that was how I kind of grew up pretty much. Like I was competing with him. It was like if he was doing this thing, I have to be doing this thing. If I was doing this thing, he had to be doing that thing. And we were kind of like always put at odds with each other, regardless of what we were doing. We both ended up graduating top 10 in our high school, and then we both ended up going to University of Texas to study chemical engineering back in 2017. That was kind of where our paths diverged, I would say. Growing up, we were, family friends and all that stuff. We would compete against each other, and that's what really drove me. Like that was what I would say one of the biggest drivers. Obviously, my own internal ambition and goals drove me to be successful in my high school and my middle school career. But what was really driving me, like through my childhood, was really this competition with him. I would say that's like a big part of my story. Compared to like what typical Indian and Asian American would talk about with their experience being, their parents drove them towards, going to one of these career paths. For me, it was really this competition. I don't know what it was, but it was always like, I can't see myself as less than this person. And that's what drove me to want to succeed, to want to study well, to want to do well in high school, and, to eventually go to the University of Texas at Austin. As an engineering student and with the scholarship. So yeah, that's kind of the K through 12 aspect of growing up. And that's what drove me through that ambition. And I would say like one of the biggest things like on that journey was like kind of understanding that like, I have an ambition. I want to be known as the best. I built up a sense of like pride because I kind of dragged myself through that, right? My parents didn't really know much about life in the US. They were kind of just learning from like our family friends or whoever they knew who had a career path that they were going on. And it was kind of me driving that, right? That's how it usually is, but like more like than majority of people, I would say I was really the author of my own success going into college. And then I reached college, and that was where there was a real breaking point in my life. Growing up, because of the way that I was competing with this other person, I had this sense of like stubbornness along with, I would say, pride. So, because I was able to compete with this person, I felt pride in myself. I kind of looked down on others. I would say a lot of people who knew me during this time in high school and college, or in high school and in middle school, I was pretty lonely, I would say. I was viewed as very different from other people. And because I treated people differently, I know now I knew in college that was the reason why I lacked friendships and like these emotional connections with other people. Then I get to college and I try to reinvent myself. I had defined myself and my success based on the way that I was competing with this person growing up. And I realized that was not the way that I wanted to live my life. I wanted to seek out real connections, develop real friendships with people and feel like that I was really connected to other people. And also like not define myself based on my like academic success. I think like I'd taken so much pride in the fact that I was academically successful. And that went to my head as well as that feeling of like I value my self-worth based on my academic success. So I was doing really well in high school or early on. And then when I got to college, I realized that I was valuing myself on that self-worth on my academic success. And when I got to college at the University of Texas, especially in the chemical engineering program, I was then introduced to some of the smartest people in the state of Texas, probably even the country. That was when I realized that, like, no matter what I do, I may not be able to compete with these type of people. They're just harder workers than I am. They are more raw intelligence than I do. It's just more difficult to be able to connect with these type of people. And what I realized was like, or not connect, but compete with these type of people. What I realized was like when I was faced with these people, this was the first time that I shied away from the competitive side of me. I wanted to not face them like I did with this person that I grew up with, and I wanted to kind of like just coast, relax, compared to the way that I had done my high school career. And this led to me not performing as academically well as these other people, which devalued my own personal self-worth, and I started spiraling down into this anxiety-filled, lonely path, I would say, because I didn't see myself as equal to them, because of my self-worth was devalued based on my personal values, which at the time were, I am academically successful, that is who I am. And I wasn't doing as well as these people, so I didn't view myself as equal to these people. And as a result of that, that caused me to stop talking to them, to stop treating them as my friends. And that sense of like imposter syndrome, I would say, really feeling like I didn't belong there at UT, or I didn't belong in the chemical engineering department, drove me to this path of loneliness, which leads me to my like rock bottom. There's another aspect of this from a personal side rather than the academic side as well. My living situation in college was a terrible environment to be in because of the situation that was going on with my roommates. There was a lot of things that they were doing that I didn't personally agree with. The way that they treated people, the way that they treated one person in specific, and that personally resonated with me super negatively. It was just not a great place to be around because I knew that I couldn't confide in my roommates. I knew that I couldn't treat them as friends because of the way that they're treating other people and me in general. And it didn't agree with my personal values. And so being around them all the time and being around these people who didn't agree with my values and were generally negatively bringing down my personal mood, my personal mindset, it really, really drove me into this like dark, dark place. I don't think I would have ever considered, unaliving myself or anything like that. But from a mental health perspective, especially, someone who based their self-worth on their academic success, nothing in my life was going well. Academically, personal relationships wise, in general, my life, I felt that was just completely different from the way that I grew up. And it was hard to find any like quote unquote wins. And that kind of leads me to that rock bottom. This time period in my life in college, I would say like first semester of sophomore year, around the fall of 2018. That was what I'd say is like definitely one of my rock bottoms in life. I was just going through a situation where the people I was around, the people I was surrounded by, my roommates, and the people who were around in my life at that time were not supportive of the way that I wanted to live my life, and also positivity in general. The environment that I was in was not conducive to me succeeding academically or in my personal relationships or in any aspect of my life really. And so I was at that rock bottom, and I rose from that situation with this friend. Like Davide described, there was just one friend in my life who I made. I made this friend, I would say second semester of freshman year. But we became closer because I started opening up to this one friend. And he helped me challenge the perspective that I had on life in general. And he was also just there to like listen to the crap that I was going through in my personal life. There's people that I had trusted with information. There's people who I had trusted with things about my life and I was vulnerable with, who then weaponized that those things against me. They were then they knew my secrets. They knew the things that the way that I was feeling. They knew the way that I was, and they chose actively to negatively impact me by doing things and saying things that would drive me further down this spiral. And then this friend at that rock bottom, he was able to like listen to my perspectives, and he was able to like help me challenge those perspectives. He was able to like help me realize that my personal self-worth should not be based on my academic success. That the fact that I had trusted these people and let them into my life and they had end up destroying that life. The fact that those people existed doesn't mean that good people don't exist. It doesn't mean that there aren't people who would help me impact my life positively. And after talking to him, after, changing the people that I was around, I would say that was one of the biggest things that I realized that really changed me as a whole is just changing my environment. I didn't have the support system that I thought I was building when I had chosen my roommates and when I had chosen my friends. And I realized that by changing those people around me, I can really change the way that I'm going to impact the world, be involved in the world, do the things that I wanted to do. And so after talking to this person, my whole life changed. He introduced me to new people. He introduced me to new social organizations. And that's when everything made a shift, I would say. I realized that I was talking to my roommates and these other people that weren't really positively impacting my life. I was surrounding myself with better people. I was surrounding myself with different social organizations, different things, and really breaking out of the place that I was in. And that ended up, positively affecting the way that I was studying, the people that I was hanging out with. My academic success started coming back, and I wasn't basing my success based on my academic success, but it was also just positive, a positive result of the way that I viewed the world, the difference in the way that I viewed the world based on the way that I had changed my mindset because of my friend. And this just led me to a lot. It led me to really exploring the things around me and keeping an open mind. That was one of the first things that I realized is this like traditional success is like working at a major accounting firm or working at a major whatever oil and gas company, like being like at a top corporate job. Yeah, that's traditional success, but what I realized that I shouldn't base my happiness or my self-worth on like what company I work for or like how much money I make or what all of this stuff, right? I started realizing that like the thing that really matters to me is like making a positive impact around the people around me and just people in the world in general. And so I started being part of like a bunch of organizations. One of the biggest organizations was like student engineers educating kids. I was helping local communities around Austin, underprivileged communities, doing STEM workshops with these kids, elementary school and middle school years in Austin, and just like reconnecting to certain aspects of my life that I had forgotten in pursuit of this like academic success. Right, there's things that I did growing up that I loved that I had quit in order to be academically successful in high school. Right, in high school, at least in my high school, you were encouraged to drop everything, dedicate yourself to getting grades. And what I realized was like I dropped a lot of things that I loved, a lot of passions that I had in order to be academically successful. And then in college, I rediscovered my love for some of these things just by exploring and realizing that like traditional success isn't predicated on like academically being successful or doing any of these things. It's really just like how do you provide value to the people around you? How do you make the people around you better along with you and rise together? And that's kind of like eventually, I mean, long path along the way, but that was kind of the genesis for what became this podcast. That was when I realized what one of my callings is in life is to try to bring people up, not tear people down like a lot of the people around me were.
Thank you so much for sharing the story. And like just to be transparent with our audience, like we are sharing these stories as they come to our mind. We didn't over prepare them, and also my side, I'm just hearing, learning, and I knew a bit of context, but it's great to have all these points connected. Um, so like there is a pattern and also a key learning at the end. And so I would say I would start from the K-12 that I learned recently. What is it? What it is? Um, and so this guy, right? You were compared to him. Your context made this comparison. So why was he the chosen one? Was he the only person who was like shining in your context, or there were some other reasons that like brought you to be compared? And like, is there something that you blame yourself or your parents or the context around you? Like, how could you have stopped this bad cycle? Is it possible to stop it now? If you could come back at your age, I don't know, even what is the K-12 age, like 13 years old, 14 years old, or maybe older. How old are you at K-12?
So let's break that down a little bit. Like, what exactly are you asking again? Sorry.
Well, I'm asking. I
So
mean,
like,
I
okay,
can
so
repeat. I
basically,
can repeat the question. I can repeat the
so
question,
K
like
through
because it.
12. Let me clarify first. K through 12, real quick. K through 12 means kindergarten through 12th grade. So that means
Okay.
from the age of 5 to the age of 18.
Okay. Okay. Perfect.
Your
I just
formative
wrote
childhood
K-12.
years. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So you can use the question I just did, or like you can use this new question without the K to 12 issue. Um, my question is, why this comparison with this guy happened? In a sense, was he the only person who was like excelling in your K through 12, or were there other people around that you could be compared to? And so, why was he the chosen one? And then, could you or your friends or your parents stop this comparison? If you could come back in the past, could you find some ways to avoid to be compared to this guy and put in parallel to him every time?
So I guess like the first part of that question, I'll start with. I think the reason why him is because we are both of South Asian, South Indian specifically
Mm,
heritage. And one of the biggest reasons why he was compared to me specifically, there were other people who were really, really intelligent. I mean, to be honest, like they have done better in life than both of us. But I mean, like again, like that mindset of comparison shouldn't exist. But to be honest, like these people are like were really, really, really intelligent and have done a lot with their lives. But the reason why he and I were being compared to each other, from my perspective, was because our families were so we were really close. Like I had met him back in 4th grade when I was 8 years old, and ever since that day, like our moms talk all the time. Like our our families are closely like friends, and because of the way that we were being raised and being compared in general, we were doing a lot of the same things. Like he had joined some organizations that I had joined, and I had joined some of the organizations he's joined. We were around each other quite a lot, which also led to our friends being the same circles. Like we were in the same friend groups. We were like had the same friends. If we, you know, yeah, like the stuff that we did, the people around us were very like they were all the same people, right? I had the same hobbies as he did. Hobbies because they were kind of organized by either my family or his family or whatever. But like essentially, like the other people who I could have potentially been compared to, they weren't as closely related to us. Like we weren't related, but like they weren't like they weren't as close to us. Like they were doing different things. They had different hobbies. They had stuff going on. In terms of like hobbies, in terms of even extracurriculars, as well as school, he and I had the same stuff going on.
okay.
Without
And so
being
my
more
question.
specific, because people would know who he. I mean, people already in my life already know who he is, but like I don't want to like call him out.
Okay. no worries. We are not. We don't want to shitstorm for this
We want
person.
to
Like, I
be
mean,
privacy. We want to establish this person's privacy, right? Like we don't want to.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So my curiosity, actually, also curiosity is like, I think a big question, like if a person from our audience, or let's say 10 people from our audience, are in the same situation that you were, what suggestion would you give them?
Let me.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. Sorry to interrupt. I apologize about that. The second I forgot to answer the second half of that question, which was, how do you think I could have stopped that comparison, right?
Yeah.
And I think if I could, I wouldn't, or if I could go back in time, I wouldn't change a single thing. I would change the way that I was talking to other people, and the way that I was acting to other people, and try to change that mindset that I'm better than other people. I think that was one of my. I think that's still one of my biggest problems in life is that even when it comes to comparison or whatever, like I'm a very proud person, very very proud person, and that's like if you were to say what is my fatal flaw, that's definitely my fatal flaw. The pride comes before the fall. In general, I like I it comes off as like arrogant or overconfident sometimes, but I do have a lot of pride in myself and the things that I do. And like when it comes to like the comparison with this person, I think that if it didn't happen, my life trajectory would be completely different than the way it is. And I'm very thankful for what happened. I wouldn't have changed a single thing because I think there's different ways to like eventually have this ambition or this like goal to do well in life. But one of the things that you can always like one of the things that like a lot of people didn't have growing up, which kind of I'd say diminishes their ambition in life, is this rival. Like someone who is your goals, like someone who does something to push you forward, right? Like sometimes you don't have the motivation to do things, but it's like there was this like internal fire that I had, this like sense of ambition that came from wanting to compete with this person. It doesn't matter, like the comparisons and all that stuff doesn't matter at the end of the day. It was like the reason why I was doing so well, the reason why I would say like to provide a little bit of context, right? Like from the age of 5 to the age of 8, the age of 9, I was a troubled kid, I would say at the very least. I was not in the same trajectory of life that I was from the age of 5 to 9. From my early developmental years, I was being sent to the principal's office quite often, assaulting kids, reading at below
Assaulting kids.
like
What do
assault,
you mean assault?
punching people.
Okay, okay. Because
I was
actually, like,
punching people on the playground. I was fighting. Like I was causing a lot of problems as a from the age of kindergarten to the age of like 4th grade. Like I was not a quiet or productive kid. For many years I was like causing problems. Like my parents would have to pick me up from the principal's office all the time growing up. And when this person showed up in my life, and everything came, at least from my perspective, everything came easy to him. He was able to talk to people, even if he like he was known as very braggadocious as well. But like when we were growing up, but like he was able to talk to people. He was able to speak publicly well. He was able to do things and be better at a lot of things that I was. And I saw myself as an equal to him. Because back when we were first there, like in 4th or 5th grade, we were friends. Like we were close friends. And then like we kind of shifted that mindset to being competitors when we got into more academic related things. And so like I saw myself as equal to this person, and saw myself as nothing less than this person, even though that he was like on paper he was like beating me or whatever stuff we were doing. The thing is like the fact that he exists means like it. The fact that he existed means like I would not have been as successful as I was in my high school career and my college career if it wasn't for the existence of this person. Like he
okay,
completely changed the perspective I had on life and things. It's hard to say that, like, you know, when you're like, oh, I'm 8 years old, 9 years old. Who knows how my life would have ended up. But I know that like the fact that I met him at the age of like 9 years old, like I saw myself being like, why can't I compete with this person, right? And that led me to like studying well in like middle school, studying well in high school. Like that's what powered me through the belief that I was a very dumb kid. In reality, I was probably not that dumb, but I was a like I viewed myself from the age of like what 5 to 8, 9 years old as a very dumb kid because I was a troublemaker. I was doing whatever I wanted to do. I was disrupting the class. I was getting sent to the principal's office. I was doing
Rohan the
things that were
gangster.
really not good. Yeah, no,
Okay.
like seriously, I was the gangster. Like I was
Okay.
cussing people out. Like people were teaching me cuss words and I was cussing them. Like I
I
was the
think you gave
troublemaker.
me enough
Like I was
examples.
the
Like,
ADHD guy.
okay. So, just to like, I want to say two things. The first one is that, like, despite you mentioned yourself as like very proud, very competitive, very also fightful, that you were like assaulting people, I can witness that like Rohan is a very mindful, calm, and also very funny person. That's why
Well, that
when you said,
changed because
yeah,
of
no, but
the
no,
fall.
but also like the way and the tone, like that, like you are, and how you're presenting yourself like today is like reliving all these reliving, I don't know how to say, all these moments, like
Reliving.
you're reliving in a very serious and like strong way. And so the personality that is
I,
coming out, it's also new for me. So I don't want to say that like that the way you're saying things like very passionate, versus like in the day to day where like you're very fun, you're very like kind of chilled. So I want to clarify that. And for your like sake, in a sense, like if you meet Rohan, is like super sparkling, super laughing. The thing I want to ask you that I think it's very important, and I'd like to get your perspective. So for your journey, this guy was key, was crucial. It saved your life. It was your redemption. But let's say if you have a if you have like, let's say, little cousin that
yeah.
is in the K through 12, and as a person that he feels really competing with, this creates him a lot of pain. What would you say to that cousin of yours? How would you support him?
Yeah. So I guess like, so you're saying that that person feels negatively about that competitiveness or those comparisons?
Yeah, I'm saying like, if I mean, of course, like K through 12, I think you struggled, like you felt emotionally challenged, and you felt like, I mean, was not an amazing experience to have like someone you always were comparing with, and like a person that you felt really in constant like challenge. I mean, I think this constant comparison comes from a feeling of not feeling enough, and like your parents and your friend reinforcing the feeling of not being enough, because you need to
Hmm.
achieve as much as him, and only at that point you could consider yourself enough or good.
It wasn't necessarily my parents or my friends saying that like, why aren't you doing this? No one was saying that, right? It was me internally. It was me who was like, this person is here. Like this person is doing this. I can't let this person beat me. Like he is not better than me. I'm better than him, and I'm gonna do this, right? And yes, that mindset is not good, right? The mindset of like comparing yourself to another person and thinking you're better than them or thinking someone else is worse than you, like trying to make those comparisons and being like that is not the way to live life. The way to live life, and in my opinion, and this came from like, all of those tough talks that I had with my friends in college, is like bringing each other up, is supporting the community around you, and making everyone better at the same time. Like it's not a competition. In high school we were pitted against each other, right? In college we were pitted against each other to try to compete for the best jobs, to try to compete for the best GPA. But like the real world doesn't work like that. If you think you're better than someone else, or if someone else thinks they're better than you like you're no one wants to like work with you. No one wants to like talk to you, right? And that's why I felt so lonely in high school and like in college, because I was comparing myself to other people and constantly like not talking to them because they did better than me on an exam, or they 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 pointed out harsh truth to me or whatever it is. Like the fact that I was comparing myself to other people negatively affected me in my life. But I would say that like the fact that I was comparing myself to him like drove me to success, right? I set this person as my goal, as my standard, and that is the reason why I succeeded,
Okay.
right? Like comparing myself to this person was not a good thing, but the fact that I did it is also like a way to like it's not necessarily a negative thing if you can like not base your self-worth on beating this person or
Okay.
being more successful this person. You should everyone should have a goal or an ambition, and like if that person if someone's life, if living up to someone's life is that standard, that's not a bad thing, right? It's like I want to be just like Bill Gates. Like like choosing to live your life like Bill Gates and doing the things that Bill Gates did is good. Like that's like setting that standards like I want to be just like this person or I want to be better than this person. Like having a goal and having that ambition, it's what drives people. It's what motivates people to get up every day and do what they do, right? I'm not saying that
Okay.
that's negative at all. I would say in reality that's probably positive, right? Having some sort of somebody to model the
Inspiration.
way that you, yeah, inspiration,
Practical
somebody to
inspiration.
model.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and I agree. I mean, the fact that like this person was in front of you, you could see that the things he was doing were doable, and so I feel like probably with these big models like Bill Gates and now Sam Altman could be like the new like inspiring person of the 21st
Yeah.
century. I think like I'm very like distant, but like maybe what I probably to kind of to if I was talking now to my little cousin based on your experience, I would say um it, like as you say, like don't base your self-worthiness on this person, but like see what he's doing and the things that he's doing well, you're able to do them because you're not less than him. Okay. I think and honestly like and just to give you a quick differentiation point, I think in my own life I was very little and I had like also problems like through high school of like fitting context and feeling an outcast. And something I decided that was completely the other route, and that's something that for me played at the end very well, is I was keep compared by 3 4 people that were also was my group of friends and was not hard to keep up also because we were like all hitting like good standards. So I didn't feel less or more, but like we're in this bubble of three, four of us, and then like they started excluding me at the high school because I was not cool enough. And then my decision was that okay, I'm gonna start to do things where I will completely be uncomparable to anyone else. And so I went out from Italy to Europe, and then I went out from Europe to Asia, and then I went out from Asia um, to
America.
US. And also my friends are all doing like consulting and banking and roles in big corporations. So like I'm in a startup accelerator. I think like none of my friends is in a startup accelerator working with founders and helping to on their business. So I try to be uncomparable and create my own path based on my peculiarities. So on the one end, I see that like you could see someone else next to you doing the right things, and so you try to emulate these things to follow his good trajectory. But maybe sometimes you can set your own KPIs, be a trailblazer, so building your own trail that is completely unexplored. Of course, you will like you need to be even more careful because if it's a new trail, you are finding like some rocks and some like sandy. What did we say last time? Sandy that you can fall
Oh, yeah. Quicksand.
quicksand. You
Quicksand.
can find like things completely unexpected because nobody did this path. So like I arrived in US and also in China, like lots of legal issues because I mean migration and everything. So of course there are obstacles that you cannot predict if you're the first one doing this path, but at the end of the journey you will see yourself with a backpack completely different than the other person. And as I said to Rohan, like last time, uh, and we had a quick debate on it, like I try to be a pastor in my life and not a sheep. And I feel like, as we said, like with Rohan, like there's nothing bad to be like a pastor and be a trailblazer, or like be a sheep and like follow like already a path that is made by a pastor. But these are like two alternatives that I I want to make clear, because there are two alternatives. Okay, going forward, so you went to college, and you like you were devaluing yourself at the point like you didn't feel worth to talk to anyone else. Was it a gradual process, and was it just an internal process of self beliefs, or there were like some external signs that you capture from, I don't know, your friends, from, I don't know, the environment that made you feel lower than them, or was all in your mind? Was all in your mind?
It's kind of hard to kind of make those observations now. Back in the day, I mean, I think that like there were people around me that um, I mean, I think there were people around me that viewed me the way that they did because of the way that I was in high school, like how successful I came out of high school. Um, but I don't think that people were like necessarily trying to treat me differently based on the way that I was performing in school. I think that was all in my head, and I knew that it was in my head too. I don't think that people would like me less because I performed worse in school. I think people like I at least like the way that I was thinking is like I would not do that. Like the 18-year-old me would not view someone the same way if they weren't successful if, academically or something. So I think the way that I felt about how other people are affected the way that I thought about how other people thought of me. If that makes sense, right? So like for example, I was like I would do bad on an exam, and then I would be like, shit, like I did bad on this exam, like people probably don't want to talk to me. Like that would just like be the way that I would think, because I was like, dang, like I don't belong with these honor students who are with me. We're all like, honor students. We're all like better than all the regular engineering students, and like that thought process was because of the way that we were in high school, kind of like the way that high school was for me. I know for a lot of people they didn't buy into the competition and all of that stuff, but for me the way that I was in high school was just like I wouldn't talk to someone unless they, I mean, like there were people that I was friends with, like if they weren't successful or whatever, but like I still internally like believed that I was better than them, that I was I'm like such a good dude for talking to this person who's like not as successful as me in academics. And like, you know, just thinking about the way that I was makes me like just have some self-hate, back in the day, like back in college, that also drove me, like, you know what I mean? Like that thought process of like the way that I was thinking in high school drove me to like more loneliness and more like imposter syndrome. It's like I'm such a fraud for believing this way in high school, and then like in college, no one's going to talk to me because I wasn't performing well or doing well in life, right? And like just going down that like spiral, it's those thoughts just like spiral, right? You just keep thinking worse and worse thoughts because you're doing worse and worse, and then that like makes it more difficult to focus and study, which then makes it your grades worse, and then you believe that your friends don't want to talk to you more because you're doing worse, right? And that just like negative spiral just goes down to that point where you just can't take it at some point. And that was when I hit the rock bottom, along with some of the things that the other roommate stuff that I was talking about. Yeah.
Okay, and actually, it's particular that you're saying that. I didn't know this aspect about like you selecting people based on their academic success. And it's pretty particular because now you are one of the people that I feel you could talk with anyone, and you always tell me that you could be energized by any conversation with anyone as far as there is something interesting on the table. And also, like, I mean, we always say it, but like we are part of Venture for America, this organization where the young graduates want to impact um, like in communities in development, such as Charlotte, such as Baltimore, such as in my case Indianapolis was my choice. And so compared, like, how did you do this? I didn't finish the point of Venture for America, and now you're part of Venture for America, and you are seeing the value and success in a different way. So, like, not in traditional route of corporations, in big organizations gives you power, gives you authority, but like joining a little startup about a tech, working on a tech product that nobody really validated its success on a larger scale. And so, how did you completely reframe your thoughts, your KPIs of success, and your KPIs of social interaction? Because I think it's a drastic change for the openness of the people you talk to, and also it's openness to explore very unconventional career path career paths.
Yeah. So I'd say one is like it just comes with maturity, right? At the time that I was in high school and all this stuff, we're all like teenagers. We all have hormones. We all have like these emotions and these things that control us and drive us. But like when you get to college and you meet people who are just completely different from you, and that's one of the reasons why I'm like so blessed to have gone to the University of Texas. Like, yeah, I was competing against some of the best and smartest people in the state of Texas and probably across the U.S. But also, it's such a huge university, right? Like, I think the engineering school has to have been something like more than 10,000 people, right? Like my engineering class was probably 2,000 people in itself. And my class of like chemical engineers, I think we started with 270 something. We ended up graduating some like half around the half that like 100 people. But like there's just so many people, and like the fact that you can meet new people and do new things every day. Like I could meet a different person every day and I wouldn't have met I would have not met everybody even maybe even potentially in the engineering school. I mean, potentially in the engineering school, but maybe even my major. Like I could have met a new person. Sometimes I still talk to my chemical engineering friends and they mention somebody who went to college with us in our graduating class and I don't know who they were. Right? Like we just had too many people for me to like think about that. And like once I like kind of realized that perspective just by growing, like getting older, right? Like you're 18, 19, you're like younger than that even in high school, right? Like you're going to compare yourself to the people around you and your bubble. Like you're talking about you had your 3 or 4 friends in your bubble in Naples. But then you like discover that the world is bigger, right? You like get over the fact that like these people around you and doing better than you because you're like, dude, like there's this whole world out there of people who are doing what they love and they're happy. And like one of the biggest things I would say, like, so maturity was one of them, and second of them is like just like opening my mind, right? Getting that open-mindedness and just talking to people who had completely different life perspectives. Because at the time I was surrounding myself with these highly successful people who were on the path to working at a great oil and gas company or a great consulting company or like doing well in tech or doing whatever. Like they were going to be the like titans of their industry. That's what their goals were. And that was what my goal was for so long. For so long it was like I want to be one of the best at these like consulting firms. I want to be one of the best at like in whatever I do. Like I wanted to be IB private equity or whatever it is, right? Like I want to be a world class lawyer or whatever it is. I had all these different things that I was thinking about as a career path potentially. But whatever I wanted to do, it was like nonstop. I was just wanting to be the best. That was what I like placed my self worth on. And then I realized there's these people who are so much happier than me, so much more happier than I was, not doing that. Like they didn't give a crap who was the best. They didn't care who was who. Like it was just they were happy doing what they wanted to do and living their life. Like they were happy impacting the person next to them positively. Like I met those type of people in college because like it's just such a like wide variety of people everywhere, right? Like I didn't have to hang out with people who were in my major, which that was the problem that I had freshman year was like I literally did not expand. Like I had other organizations that I was part of, but I chose not to make friends in those organizations and particularly stick with the people who were in my chemical engineering program. And it's not that those people were negative people at all. Like it's just that I was surrounding myself with these highly successful people and then comparing myself constantly to them, and then like letting myself down when I was comparing myself to these people. Right? Like I was subscribing to my own negative feedback loop. And like the day I like stepped outside and I'm like I'm gonna go talk to this person, not because you know and like when I talk to this person, I'm not gonna like think to myself internally, I'm better than this person. Don't have to listen to anything this person says, right? Like when the first day that happened, like the freedom that I felt of just like I'm just gonna talk to this person because I want to know who this person is and like what they're doing with their life and like why they're so happy, or like why they're not happy, and maybe I can help them find happiness or find like an impact, make an impact, help them find an impact in their life, right? And just like that mindset shift of just like talking to people where they are and like not comparing them myself to them and thinking that I'm better than them or thinking that I'm less than them, and that's going to affect the way that we talk, right? And the day that that changed, I realized how much people wanted to be around me. Like like they want to be around somebody who brings them up or who talks to them where they are and who doesn't treat them like they're less than or more than someone else. And that was when I started truly making friends, like a friend, like someone who I view as an equal regardless of like what they do in their life or what they've done in their life. What like I'm judging them as who they are now and what they want to do with their life, right? And that just like mindset completely like adjusted everything. And like one primary example of this is like there's this friend that we stayed at his place when we were in Austin last week. um so he's like one of these people in my life who he and I were always friends, and like I always had this like comparison mindset to other people, but he was one of those people that I never really compared myself to because he wasn't in my grade or anything like that. And he's just like this dude who has so many friends and is always happy, even though he wasn't like necessarily the most academically successful person or like doing the best in anything really. But he's just like he lived his life so happily, regardless of like the like stuff that was going on in his life. There was a lot of stuff that went on in his life, but like he wasn't like, oh my god, he's set to go to MIT and become like a genius and do like work at like a hedge fund or in big tech or whatever, right? Like he was just somebody who just like lived life every day doing whatever he possibly could and like being happy with what himself, and like whenever he saw you, like even if he wasn't happy, he would like be happy, you know what I mean? Just laugh, just like enjoy. And like I remember thinking to myself in college too, like this person was a really close friend of mine in college, and like wondering like how can I be like him? Like how can I just like live my life without comparing myself constantly to other people, without having to deal with that kind of like mindset and or those things like the negative thoughts, and like how can I just like smile and laugh and have fun, right? And like once I like started emulating this person, I like realized how much better my life is. Like I started emulating this person and I just started like talking to people at their level, like trying to enjoy and be curious about who they are and just like laugh about everything, make jokes, enjoy, just like try to live your life without that like pressure of like I need to be the very best and everyone needs to acknowledge my greatness. Like that was that mentality, like that sick mentality that I had growing up. And like once that shift happened, it was just instant. It was just instantly like so much better.
So my question is the following: you talk about maturity, you talk about mindset shift, but exactly how did you start to ask to approach first of all people that you never approached, people that like were not successful enough a few years ago to talk to you, then you approach them in a also different way, like so you were not trying to understand their secret of success, but their secret of happiness. So I know you are like it's a growth process that it's pretty long and lots of learnings, but to a person from the audience that we want to maybe accelerate this mindset shift of this person, how which are the tricks that you would suggest to make this shift happen fastly?
Yeah, so I mean, it's I don't think it should be something that is fast. Like a mindset shift is important because and mindset shift becomes important when it's slower because it has more impact, right? Like I'm not gonna wake up tomorrow and like be a completely different person, right? It just starts with the first step, right? You just like once you start trying to see people in a different light
Okay.
and just approaching people in a different light, it just starts naturally growing, right? I don't remember there wasn't like a single day where I was just like, okay, today I'm gonna be happy. Today I'm just gonna like start talking to people and think of people differently than the way I've been thinking about them for 19 years, right? Like it's just something that you like slowly day by day get better at, right? So it's like I just started I just started expanding my hobbies. It's really just from like meeting new people and like doing new things, like changing my environment, right? Like explore different opportunities and different things that you've never thought about doing before, right? Like that's the way that I've lived my life since the age of 19 to now. I guess I'm almost 25, but just every day I think about new things that I don't think I would have ever thought I would have done back in the day. And like just thinking about exploring new opportunities. And like also when you like think in your mind like I want to do something new tomorrow, your brain like and like the world around you kind of shifts to become more towards your vision of what you want for yourself. That's something that I've noticed. It's like I was like, okay, I'm just gonna join this organization, Student Engineers Educating Kids, because it's gonna help my GPA or whatever it is, right? For some other reason. But then like I've end up meeting these people and doing these things and reconnecting with the service element of my life. Like being a volunteer and being someone who serves other people was a part of my life because I was in Boy Scouts and I grew up to become an Eagle Scout. I don't know if you're familiar with Boy Scouts of America or the
Not of
Eagle Scout
America, but
program,
of
but
Italy.
yeah, it's the same concept
Yeah.
essentially, right? You're doing a lot of things that are supposed to teach you how to be a man growing up. Nowadays, it's more inclusive to be scouts in general, which I think it's really powerful to empower other people who don't have the traditional values of the Boy Scouts organization. But I think like reconnecting with some of those elements that I had in high school that were different from the academic acts, the academics parts of life, and also just like exploring the opportunities, the different things I was doing. I joined like a fencing club and I was doing fencing for a little while and it was something that I've never done before, never even like knew anything about it. And like I just started being involved with that, like making friends from that. I started reconnecting with some of my high school friends in a different light. And I hope they saw me like in a different light because of the way that my mindset had shifted. I think I had gotten some of that feedback from my high school friends. They're like, "You're just such a like completely 180 different person than you were." Like when I met them like 2 or 3 years after I left high school. And it was just because of the people that were around me, right? Like these people were encouraging me to talk to different people. They were encouraging me to like move on from the people who were holding me down and just like changing my environment, like not talking to my roommates, like cutting those people out of my life who were negatively affecting me, or at least at the very least, not giving them value and like not giving them a place in my mind allowed me to just like move on from them and move on from that negative aspect of life. And I just met people who were just positive, like people who like encouraged me to follow my hobbies, people who were just instrumental in the way that I changed my mindset. There was another friend that we were connecting with in Austin um, that we had some good Asian food with,
Okay.
um, who really really affected the way that I thought about life because he had not come from traditional
Got it.
aspect of success. Like this is the defined success for me. And he had his own like life changing stuff that went on in his life. And when he was like helping me reframe the way that I thought about myself as well, like I just realized that there's positive people in my life. I just wasn't talking to them in that way, right? There were people in my life who were going to support me, but I just wasn't talking to them in the way that they would enable me to change my mindset. And so once I just started approaching people a different way, right? Approaching people from like not comparing myself to that person, but let me just talk to this person and like learn about them. I realized like how much I care about other people, right? Like I didn't realize that, like I grew up thinking that I don't care about other people, but I realized that like I was just hiding that behind my ambition. Like I do genuinely care about every single person that I meet, every single interaction that I have. I think like I've shifted honestly to become more of like a people pleaser, which in its own way has its problems. But like I generally realize that I do like love people. I do enjoy like meeting people, interacting with people, and I've realized the positive aspect of like talking to people. And that shift has just become natural. Like it's become something that has helped and affected my entire life. I was like, I'm gonna be, an oil and gas engineer and one of the people at the biggest companies making a ton of money out of college, and then like buy a bunch of properties and like become a real estate investor or whatever. Like that was like the set life path that I had for myself, the North Star that I had for myself. Then that eventually changed to how do I make impact to people? How do I provide value to the people around me? Then it was, going to work at these companies that I wanted to impact the people based on my role. I love technology. So I was like, I want to improve people's lives using technology. Nowadays, it's like, okay, we have this cool technology. How do we make money off of it? But for me, it's like, how do we improve people's life, even if it's like helping with them with convenience or something, right? Like I think about technology from that lens. It's like, how do I improve someone's life? Like blockchain technology has the ability to improve people's life, regardless of like the way that it's being implemented right now. But like we could find a way to like help make social impact from blockchain technology, or like that's just one example. But like whatever it comes to in my life, it's like, how do I provide value? How do I help people? That mindset shift started coming to me. It's like I want to like rise with people, and once that came, like all the things came associated with it, right? Um, the jobs that I went into and like Venture for America, that opportunity came to me because I had an open mind. I had never thought that I would ever wanted to be involved in entrepreneurship and startups in this entire community. And then like I just opened my mind. I was like, I want to make social impact, right? Like I can do that in a multitude of ways. I don't have to be working at the biggest companies doing whatever. I could be, changing the world through entrepreneurship, through a startup, through these communities of people who want to make impact and want to drive value. Like that's what they care about in this space of entrepreneurship. And like once I met entrepreneurs, once I met founders, and once I met people who were really passionate about this, not looking to like, make a company that will make them millions at an exit, then they can go into venture capital. But like the people who are like, I've noticed that it was hard for people to find affordable healthcare. Let's make this app that will make it easier for people to like be more educated and understand about different healthcare plans. Or like my friends who developed like COVID this like website and like different like technology that would help people. They developed this like website that was helping people learn about COVID, sharing resources, and like learn more about COVID during the height of COVID back in like March and April. Like people who are doing those sort of impact technology, like that's what like really drew me into like this space of entrepreneurship. It's like at some point I want to impact people's lives. Like I think that's where like true happiness for me comes from. It's like serving other people, helping them realize their dreams, their emotions, helping them realize that they're not alone, right? Like I felt so alone, and if people like if my friends weren't there, especially these like people that I've been mentioning, they know who they are, but like these people who I've been mentioning, they dragged me out of the mud. They like helped me realize that I am much more than the comparisons that I give myself to other people.
I love like what you say so far, and also like how you expanded from the initial question, in a sense that like you really, I could really see the snowball effect. So you took some little steps to be open and learn, and then like this brought people in your life. So you broke free from the loneliness, and then like now you enter like these big organizations across US. You're impact driven, and and as you said, from these little steps at the beginning, your own world completely changed, your own vision of life completely changed, and your way that you approach people completely changed. And so that's pretty crucial, and that's something we want to really showcase in these stories. Like you can be in the rock bottom, and once like you start to take the first steps, the first actions, then like this snowball effect happens massively, and we saw it in all our stories. And to come back to the root of my questions, and so to these first steps that trigger this snowball, you said like the first step was like be open and learn from others. I would also add something that I think was implicit in your words, but it's something that I reflect today with a friend, in a very silly scenario. Uh, but when you talk with someone else, I feel it's super important. If you want to learn and be open, really, is to break free from your assumptions. I won't mention the example of today because it's pretty silly. I mean, probably I can mention, we can cut it out if it's not relevant. But basically, one friend got offended. So this friend from US got offended because a friend from Latin America, once this friend from US mentioned like, "Hey, it will be my birthday in like in 1 month. Are you gonna come to my birthday?" And then the guy from Latin America said, "I have other plans." Not even say sorry. And so the guy from Latin America didn't realize how important it was for the guy of US, his birthday, and he could not conceptualize that he did a mistake because he was completely into the assumption that like the birthday for at least his subculture of Latin America was not super relevant, because he was growing like very like no, an environment that was not like over celebrating birthdays. I don't know if this example hit your heart. The example I want to bring that was probably the crucial one that comes to my mind, I always say, is like when I went to China, I tried to not put any expectations. Until the moment I only lived in Italy and I just did the shift from Naples to Milan. Then I went to China. I didn't have any expectations. People were asking me like, "What do you think about China?" I said, "I don't know," but I had one assumption that I was unaware of it, but I had an assumption. I'm gonna go to Beijing, that is the capital of China, and Beijing is like an international city, and I'm gonna be able to communicate and speak English. Completely wrong assumption. There, nobody speaks English. If you go to Shanghai, they speak English. Like in Beijing, they're living their life in China. So why are they supposed to speak English? And so, like, perspective is, I realize perspective is like super relative, and breaking free of the assumption really helped me to first of all overcome the communication barrier. And then like the other thing is like I like to talk to people, uh hug people. I'm very like communicative and warm. And then like there, they show you affection in a different way. So for example, there was a person that I met like the first 2 days. She was showing me around, but I don't feel she was like very like open to me. Was a local person. And then like at the like we're having very superficial conversation, and I thought she was supposed to be my buddy, my mentor. So I thought that's why she was showing up into these kind of things, because it was very like superficial level interactions for me. But then like at the end of my weeks in China, my mom was in China, she bought for me a very beautiful book about China, and she wrote me a super nice postcard to showcase like how much she was valuing me and how good was time we spent together. And so I had the assumption that like that person was not like loving me and valuing me, and instead like was completely the opposite. And I mean that's an extreme example, also driven by cultural differences. But given also this example about the birthday, that Rohan will decide if to keep it or cut it out. Break free of assumptions. It's super core if you want to learn and be open. Now I want to go on the question that I think was my highlight question, uh, and I couldn't ask you as the first question, but I think it's the right time to ask you. So you went in college, you found yourself in this very toxic environment, in a sense that, like, you were in his house with these roommates that were not nice people. And I don't know if you want to share more practical examples, if you feel, of course, not revealing the subjects, but clarifying the object. Um, so my question is the external pain of the context that brought in you the internal pain, or is it the internal pain that was creating around you the wrong context?
Can you clarify that a little bit? Like, what do
So
you mean external pain versus internal pain?
so external probably the pain is internal. There was toxic externally and internally, right? Because externally were like there was these toxic people that I kind of know some stories about, your roommates, and then like the fact that these colleagues at the end, like the colleagues that you had in engineering, like you were all very success focused, like climbing the
Yeah.
social ladder focused, and I think that's on some extent maybe not very healthy, maybe toxic. And then like you had previously this context at high school that kind of um, was like always comparing you and like make you feel like this not self-worthiness, and also keeping you close-minded. So given these three contexts that are pretty like not healthy, right, for your growth, for your open-mindedness, for your learning, is does the does the healthy does the unhealthy factor of your life starts start from the external environment, and then you're a victim of this external environment, or you bring yourself as you have this internal pain, as you are toxic inside, as you have the wrong KPIs for yourself, very driven for success, very close-minded, then you bring to yourself these bad environments.
Um,
So do you go to this? So you were unlucky to have these bad environments around you, or the bad environments that you happen to be in were the result of your internal space that was not the right one. Your internal space is
well,
the
it's both,
consequence.
right? It's both.
Okay.
It's both. It's both. Like I there were things about myself, the way that I was thinking and the mindset that I had coming into college that was not good. Like it wasn't necessarily the way I was raised only, but it was just like the way that I was thinking about myself and about the people around me was not a good mindset to have. But like besides that, it was also the people that I was surrounding myself with. Like the situation that was going on at the place that I was living at um was not conducive towards me breaking out of my funk, as to speak,
Yeah.
right? For me, like breaking out of the situation, this environment was feeding into that negativity that I had internally. It was both, right? Like it was like I didn't have the confidence to stand up to these people who were in my life, in my roommates, and the things that they were doing. I think they're really like preying on people's insecurities and weaponizing their insecurities against them.
We say bull. They were
Not
bullying
only to
people. Let's say bully very
they were
generally.
they were they were bullying people.
Okay.
They were bullying people. Um, yeah, I'm just careful to like talk about other people in this way because I have no ill will towards them now. At the time I did, but I don't have any ill will towards them right now. Like I don't want people to attack them. I don't want any sort of like negative thing to come out of this. I'm speaking about this only from my context to share about like what was going on with me internally because it's important to my story. But I don't want this to like negatively affect them right now or whatever they're doing right
But in
now.
parentheses,
So
like
that's like a preface that
no,
I
okay,
want to
but
say.
like if you say if you're saying like someone was bullying other people, and then like in the audience someone feels called out by you're saying that they were bullying other people, they may see themselves in the bullying world. Like I mean, my past.
Right, but like okay, like they knew what they were doing, right? Like it's not we at this point we're in college, right? We're like past the age of like you don't understand the impact you're having on other people. They knew what they were doing. Like I called them out, people called them out on what they were doing. They knew what they were doing and the impact they had on other people. Like I don't want to be the type of person to be like, "Oh, I'm going to change their mindset." Like they knew what they were doing and they actively chose to do that, right? And it's not like I have zero sympathy for them in the situation where they're not aware of the impact they have on other people. They knew what they were doing. They did that. They chose to act that way on a regular basis, very very often, when people were telling them what they were doing and the impact they had on this other person and what they did to that person. Like everyone knew what was going
Okay.
on. Not even my roommates, like my the people around me, like specifically only like the whole community of chemical engineering and our friend groups and all this stuff. They knew what was
Okay,
going on.
I got it.
Like everyone is aware of
Okay,
what went down.
perfect.
But essentially, what I'm trying to say is like the impact that it had on me being involved in that environment. There's still like a negativity that I had to myself because I let them do this to this other person. Like I let them bully this other person, and that's still something I hate about myself to this day. Like I stood there and I let that happen because I didn't want to be the target of this bullying. And yeah, like being around that negativity and those people being negative to this other person and bullying this other person because of the way they choose to be internally affected me negatively, right? Like I was thinking less of myself because I was letting this happen to this other person, and I was questioning my whole values and who I was. And then eventually the environment started changing from bullying this other person only to bullying me and bullying other people, right? And like I had these conversations with some of the members of these perpetrators, but they chose not to change or to like acknowledge what I was saying. It took me a long road to like end up thinking about all of the situation and like what happened. But like at the end of the day, like just changing my environment and like trying to help this other person change their environment was what my goal was from that. Like I started to realize how bad it was to be around these people. And like as soon as I realized that I can move away from these people and like not interact with these people and not be involved in what's going on there, it changed my entire perspective as well, right? Like I would say both internally and externally that pain or whatever, it's both, right? Like these people were terrible people, and then internally like I was also not a I would say not a good person because of the way that I was thinking about other people before I came into college. In that situation, I wasn't like aware of the impact that my mindset had on the way that I interacted with other people. I always like was wondering why people hated me so much, like going into high school, like why people didn't want to talk to me. I guess maybe not wondering, but like I always knew that I like treated people differently and like I thought of people differently, and that caused me to be lonely. But I never like actively tried to make a change, actively tried to like think about myself differently or think about other people differently. And it like ultimately culminated with this bullying situation. Like there was a point where I just like realized this is not my like who I am. This is not my values. Like you don't like the people what these people are doing is not what I stand for. And once I called them out, Once I like tried to make a change in their behavior and they started attacking me, I realized that like these scumbags aren't worth my time, bro. Like they're just not worth my time. Like like I say it's like a comparison or whatever. Like there's just some people who aren't worth saving, in my opinion.
Saving.
I try. They're like I tried to like help them realize what they were doing to other people, and I didn't think that they knew what they were doing to the other person. And that once that change in my mindset happens, like this person knows how they're negatively impacting the person around them. They know what they're doing. Like they know actively, and maybe it comes from their own insecurities in life or whatever it is. But that doesn't give them an excuse to treat other people like that, right?
Okay. That's a great point. Like, so it's kind of particular to saying that, because for example, we heard like some stories, in particular the story of Thomas. I can think about that, like he was completely a wrong person, and he seemed unrectifiable. And then of course, like everything comes from an internal voice, because I can say a stupid example, like I was completely lazy. I was in, like when I was like a child, probably a teenager, I was like in my sofa, like with my hand under my bed, over my belly, and like hoping that was decreasing, without doing anything. And like, and people were saying, no, you should do sport. And like, I, until I didn't have the internal power to do that, nobody could really change me. So I really see that you should like have a willingness to make some change. So of course, these people didn't have the willingness to change, but hopefully for them, eventually they've changed and they're not anymore bullying people. Now my
It
question.
needs to. I mean, it needs to come from internally, like you were saying, but also like when people tell them that what they're doing is not right, they need to acknowledge that, right? They just don't believe that, or they don't understand that. Whatever the case is, that's not a great environment to be in, right? If you're in those environments, try to find a way out. Try to tell people, try to tell the right people to try to remove yourself from that environment and remove the victim and the bully from that environment. And that's all I can really say is that like communicate with whoever like a source of trust for you, and try to move on from that. Try to figure out a way to cut those negative people out of your life. And as soon as you start doing that, as soon as you surround yourself with people who bring people up and who have that positive mindset, who have like a quote unquote right way of thinking, you're gonna start to see results. You're gonna start to see improvement in your life.
I think.
And that's what Thomas was saying, right? Like when we had Thomas's episode, he was saying like it took me a long time on a long journey to realize that the people that I was surrounding myself with are not the network and not the people I wanted to be surrounded with. And as soon as he realized that, like they may be good people, they may be whatever, right? But like if those people are not they don't represent the values that I want to uphold in my life, and they don't have they don't aren't going in the same direction as I am. Like I need to cut these people out of my life, or I need to give them less of a role in my life. And once you start doing that, like it's just like it starts with the support system and the environment around you. That's like one of my biggest advices is that if you notice yourself going into like a shitty situation and like you feel terrible about yourself, you feel whatever, it starts with just like putting the right people around you. As soon as you start putting the right people around you, your whole life is going to change. If you feel terrible about yourself and your weight, go find somebody to go to the gym with you every day. If you feel like you don't want to study, find the most productive person you know and sit around them. Like you don't even have to do like you don't have to be like productive like they do. Just sit around them and don't be negative. Don't like detract from their productivity, but just be around them, and you'll see that you wanted to start being productive, right? That's the way that I've changed my life. Is that like I've just surrounded myself with the right people, right? I try to find the right people. Those I mean, everyone has like the right person, but like find people in your life that do things that you know are the right way to live your life, or the way you want to live your life, right? I don't want to like be surrounding myself with people who don't value other people, who don't treat other people with respect and kindness. I don't value people who don't want to be funny or don't want to like enjoy and like relax and laugh. Like if someone is really intense a lot of time, like I just can't be around that person because it's like they're gonna stress me out. They're gonna be negative towards my. They're gonna negatively affect my mental health, right? So it just starts with that. Like it just starts with like meeting those people. And that's where the difficulty is, right? Like you're going to have to put yourself out there. You're going to have to be vulnerable. And that's what this podcast is about, right? We're building this community. If you feel like you are like outcasted by society or outcasted by people, this is a place where you can listen to us talk about our experiences and our friends talk about their experiences and take that from this. Like take that perspective from this, right? Start surrounding yourself with people in our community that we're trying to build. Start surrounding yourself with the people that you think are representing the same values you do, and you'll just instantly see the results. Like that I don't think that it's like that complicated. It's just you have to put in the effort. You have to be willing to be vulnerable and authentic and honest with yourself and with the people around you. And once you do that, like your life will change.
I love this point, and like I think you yeah, you kind of touched the concept that I mention a lot in my job, that is basically like interconnecting dots. So like this interconnection of dots could be like very vicious, so can create really like negative impact, a negative spillover, or like these dots can be connected and reinforce each other in a very positive way. And so something that I also want to mention, that I didn't have like sometimes the right people next to me. But first of all, we have like a huge lag that is online, and we are like in this podcast we are putting faces. Like I mean, now Rohan represents the person that like shift from success and closed mindedness to like a open-hearted, open-minded, impact-driven person. I had struggles with maybe giving too much value to some people, or being maybe like not really letting go. And now I realize like it's important to prioritize myself and let go of things. And like in life, anything can happen, and the only thing that stays is like myself and us as individual, and like the context surrounding us. And we bring the value to the context. We enrich the context. Is not the context enriching us and fulfilling us, but we fulfill what we have around us. And then like Oscar with the communication journey, and Thomas with the drugs, and all like that drugs journey, and like really going from the real rock bottom to like success in life, working at the in the startup ecosystem. So I feel like, okay, it's difficult to connect online, but for example with Rohan, we started this whole podcast despite we were like, he was in Miami, now he's in Houston, I'm in Indianapolis. We still make it happen. We still try to meet whenever we can. And like it was mainly a line relationship, and now became like an hybrid, or as I like to say, a phygital relationship. And so that's a word that reminds me, Rohan, lots of phygital things, and means the blend between physical and digital. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe the context next to you is not the ideal one, but there is so much happening online that really, if you don't limit a superficial interaction, but really dive deeper into someone else's story, even if it's on your side of the screen. And yeah, and like also to mention, like what I said last time, the biggest relationship I had in my life, at least until 1 year ago, was online. So and of course we had these digital moments, uh, but uh, but yeah, you should, if you don't find a source next to you, if you are able to look for the right environment, for the right dots, and you're able to interconnect them, uh, and that's why we are doing this. Now I want to ask probably the last. So I was before phrasing a question. Then I love that you interrupt me as usual, but to bring on like a good point. Um, so these people, you could not convince them, and so you should get out. And I think it was important to clarify from these toxic environments. But in my case, and also in your case, and hopefully in their case, despite the internal willingness triggers the process, some voices from the external environment are not heard. Lots of people were telling to these bullies that they were wrong, and maybe some people in your life told you, "Hey, Ron, you're a bit too focused on the success." So why that guy that spoke to you was able to really make you do the mindset shift, or at least trigger the snowball?
I mean, no one was really telling me that like I'm too focused on success, right? It came from internally. It always should, and it always does, in my opinion. I mean, maybe other people have seen it differently in their lives, but for me, it's like people aren't going to tell me the way that I'm thinking is wrong, right? Like sometimes they like if they really do care about you, they will tell you. But like more often than not, it's just like people who don't vibe with you won't talk to you, right? They just don't want to talk to you, or like they'll ignore you or whatever. Like they won't give you the time of day. Like if you give someone advice, that means you care about them or their well being. There was a time when I cared about my roommates, or like I thought that they were good people, and I cared about changing their perspective and their mindset. But then there's like a time where I had to realize that I had to give up on trying to change their mind because they weren't going to change, and I have to move on with that and be okay with that. But I would say like it comes from internally, man. Like it's really just like I don't know. There's some people who may not be able to reflect on their decision making and the things that they do, and they end up committing more and more mistakes and never grow from that. But I would say majority of people are able to understand and comprehend what they're doing to other people or the way they're acting, right? If you can't, then I don't think change will ever begin. Like you will ever be able to change. Like to be honest, from my perspective, it's like if someone tells me to change, and I'm in a space where I'm willing to hear this person, I may have a ability to change. But if I internally think to myself, what I'm doing is wrong. Like the way I'm behaving right now, or the way I'm acting, or the trajectory of my life right now is not the way that reflects my values, I will begin to change. Right? If I internalize that and say, okay, like the thing that I just did right now, that's not helping me and the values that I want to uphold. Like, how do I move on from that? And that when you're in that mindset and that space, then you'll be open to hearing the things that other people will tell you to change the way you think or whatever, right? You need to internally have like this. Okay, I understand the impact that I'm making on other people. I understand the things that are happening around me. And once you get to that perspective, then you're willing to be able to hear the advice that other people are going to give you on whatever you need to change about yourself. Right? I had gotten to that point where like the toxic people in my life were controlling my every thought. They were living in my head they were living in my head rent free. I don't know if you've heard that before.
Yeah, makes sense.
But essentially they were possessing thoughts in my mind when I shouldn't have been thinking about them. They shouldn't have been in my mind at all. And like once I had finally like internally like realized, like thought about, and like maybe you can talk to people in your life that be able to help you rationalize and like understand why, like what things you need to change in your life. But like it needs to come from internally. Like everyone knows at some point when they reach a certain level of maturity what is right and what is wrong.
Okay.
Right? We're taught by society, we're taught by the people around us. At some point in your life, you know what you're doing is correct and wrong, like morally, or what, like by ethic standards, you understand what is going on.
Okay.
Like if I say something mean to someone, I know that I'm saying something mean to them. It's not like, oh, I didn't realize that this is offending somebody. Like it's like, okay, I'm doing that. Like there's sometimes where people may perceive what you're saying as like something mean or something incorrect or whatever. But like if I'm saying something mean, like majority of people would say what I said was mean. I know that I'm saying that.
Okay.
Unless you're not like a psychopath or whatever. Like there's exceptions obviously, right? But I'm saying like I'm the average Joe, and if I say Davide, I hate Italians, right? Like like that was something that I just thought that was meant to hurt you, like hurt your feelings. You know that I knew what I was saying was wrong,
Okay.
right?
But
Obviously, I don't hate
no. I
Italians.
appreciate
Don't
you don't being racist.
don't at me in the
I
chat,
hate
but
Indians, by the way. No, I'm joking. So, but bringing back
uh,
to these guys and to you, I mean, of course, it's two different situations, and I was like making maybe trying to do a jet to get a general point. Maybe let's just talk about your situation. So you are telling me that that of course the change starts from internally, that nobody can really come to you and say, okay, Ron, you should change how you behave. But in your like initial spiel, you mentioned the conversation with a particular guy changed you.
mhm.
Maybe I misunderstood it, but like why the conversation
Right,
was very
yeah.
important
Well,
triggered your
it's
internal
not
wheel.
one particular conversation. It's not one particular conversation, but at that point, I'd reached rock bottom, right? I knew what was going on in my life and the things that were negative about my life, but I just didn't know how, like, I just didn't know where to start, like, what to do, or, like, even just, like, I didn't have someone in my life that I could trust with this level of vulnerability.
Okay.
At that point, I had trusted people about the way that I was thinking about. Then those people, my roommates, had like weaponized that vulnerability, and I was getting to that point where it's like I don't know who to tell, what to talk about. Like I was a shell of myself, gaining an insane amount of weight, not going to the gym, not doing the things that I love to do, not talking to people that I wanted to talk to. I was just not in the right mindset. And like I knew internally what was going on, like who was the major players in the way that I was feeling, the way that I was acting. And like at the time also, like I mean, at the time also, and even now, like, you know, there's things going on in my family that I didn't feel like I could tell them, and I couldn't use them as like a
Resource.
I didn't want to worry them. I didn't want to involve them in the situation, which I think is something I've changed that perspective from that. Like I should be involving these people in my life who I love and who can provide me with that different perspective. But I thought that I shouldn't be involving them because I didn't want to make a big deal out of this whole situation.
Okay.
And at the time, like I should have been doing that. But essentially, the point of what I'm trying to say is that like internally, once I got to that point where I needed to realize, like I realized I needed to change, there was someone I could confide in who encouraged me to seek out other people and to seek a different perspective change. Someone who enabled me. This person wasn't the reason why I changed. Like I
Okay.
wanted to change, but this person was like, "Hey, Rohan, let me introduce you to these people.
Okay.
Let me introduce you to like this new hobby or this new thing, or let me just be here as like someone you can talk to." Right? And once that happened in my life, that was what changed things. Right? Like it was like this person was there enabling my success or like my change in mindset by just doing some of the small basic things, introducing me to their group of friends, introducing me to different things, like trying to help me drag me out of my current toxic environment into somewhere where they feel like they're having fun or they're having a good time, involving me in their stuff, and like bringing me out of like this toxic environment into like a group of people that I enjoyed meeting and like enjoyed talking to, and just like getting to know different people who had completely different mindsets, completely different perspectives. And then once I started meeting these group of people, I started realizing how like I enjoyed to actually talk to people as they are, and not see someone as like this is their success based on who they are, and like that's why I'm talking to them. Like I used to think of people, my interactions with people as very transactional. What can you give me? What can I give you? Right? And then once I started seeing people, it's like, oh wow, like this person just doing something really cool. Like I want, I wish the best for this person because it's benefiting other people. You know what I mean? My entire life I've been surrounded by people or surrounded by an environment that was, if this person is doing well, that means that I'm not doing well. That means that it's like negative for me if this person is doing well. And that's like something I would say that like we need in like education reform or in some sort of aspect of like changing the way children and college students think, that like we're taught like our entire lives that you need to compete, you need to be one of the best. Only two spots at this university, only one spot at the top at this company, right? And that's the way our world kind of works at some of the top places. But like in most environments, you're working as a team, right? Like if you're on a project at a company, or if you're on a project doing whatever you're doing, like if you're in our society, you need to collaborate and make partnerships and be able to talk to people and have these communication skills that like a lot of these top level like high schools or a lot of these top level colleges, they don't do that. Like they don't encourage that, right? Like they encourage competition. It's like at UT, it was like you have a bell curve, right, for
Yeah,
grades.
yeah. We have also
So
in
it's like
Italy.
only a certain number of people can get
Yeah.
it. Only a certain number of people can get the best marks in the class. Only a certain number of people can get this level like GPA, right? So it was like I want to screw this person over. I want to like I got to bring this person down for me to go up.
Okay.
And like that mindset that was in high school and in college, like it's not conducive to the real world. Like it's not. Like once you get to the real world, you're like they're like, hey, you need to be on this project with this person who has a completely different perspective in life and is a different person. And how do you like relate to them? How do you be able to be a productive like be in a productive environment so that both of you complete this project on time with all like the under budget or whatever it is, right? Like you need to be able to connect with people who are completely different from you.
Okay.
Like the real world doesn't work in a way where you're like competing with other people and like you're comparing yourself to other people. And like what it's just like this person enabled me to think about life in a different way by just introducing me to the group of people who think of life in that way.
Okay. Actually, I agree about what you said, and I would agree ideally. Then, like in the world, there are like in the corporate environment, in like in life, I've seen like some realities that are slightly different than the ideal world that you are describing. So, just to give practical grounding to my thoughts, like I feel the entrepreneurship is amazing because like each entrepreneur, like one entrepreneur per morning wakes up and sets up his her their own goals, missions. I always use the framework like OKRs. So it's like the quality objective that you want to pursue. No, let's say uh, like let's say Apple, uh, they want to like improve the experience of users, and then like they have some key results, so some KPIs that track the progression towards this qualitative north star or objective, and then they have the actions to do today. So I love that at the end they're competing with themselves because actually there are lots of speeches where people say there is no competition. There are some competitors, but again, if you try to be the best version of your business, if you understand why your customers and you're properly targeting them, then you have no competition. Then that's the ideal part. That's the cool part. On another side, one example, and I would like your opinion about it. So imagine that you are on a sales team. Let's say on a sales team of a startup, and let's say that like you are five people that are doing business development, so trying to like hit the 20% goal of growth of the company. Then I feel in a way you are collaborating with people because you are trying to reach the 20% goal. But on the other way, let's say the startup has a limited budget, can only do some promotions, or a limited amount of promotions, a limited amount of races per year. Then like these people are your team players, but also your competitors, because maybe one of them will be elected as a sales manager, and the other like four will stay like just business development representatives. So how would you handle and keep the collaborative mindset in an environment where you know that like out of the five of you, one of the people will get promoted and the other three will stay at the same level?
Yeah. So, like I said, when I was talking about that too, it was like our world, our corporate world is built that way, right? It's built on competition and best competitor wins. That's kind of the principle of capitalism, right? It's like the best product, the most well funded, the most charismatic founder, whatever it is. They're the ones who are going to win, and they're the ones who should win. But like it's also at the same time like we are also a republic, or we're also a democracy. Like we're also supposed to live with each other. Like yeah, like in reality, like it's not like that, but like as people, we need to work together. Like the world is more globalized now after we fought these world wars and all that stuff. But like we're better off as a world, I guess. I mean, depends on who you ask, but like in terms of like the poverty rate, in terms of the education rate, in terms of a lot of things, the world now is better than it was for the many centuries previous to it. Right? And the reason why is because we work together and we're more interdependent on each other. Like we can achieve more as humans because we're collaborative. And like this book I was reading recently, it's called Sapiens. It talks about this concept. Why Homo sapiens, our species, was able to overpower the other species that were in prehistoric times. There were other, like there's the Neanderthals, there was the other species of the genus Homo. And basically the concept is that like we were able to overtake them. One of the leading theories, and I think this is most likely probably true, is that we were able to collaborate on a level that these other species were not able to. That's why we were so successful in terms of like beating them out of like the evolutionary chain. And that's why we're the dominant species on this planet too, is that we have the capability to collaborate with each other like no other species has ever existed on Earth, right? And so like if we talk about like there's five people in the sales team and like one of them is becoming the manager, yeah, but it's like I can't complete a sale without the other four. Like if you have someone who's in pre-sales and then like regular sales
Okay,
and then
let's okay.
like
Let's
transfer
another example. So okay,
like
let's discuss like also let's say that like the CEO is doing like all the closing, and like the five people are all doing the business development. So like just doing the pre-sale, and then the CEO is doing the closing. So
mm-hmm.
you have five people doing exactly the same thing, and each of them needs to, I don't know, contribute to 5% of that 20%. The math is wrong because it should be four people instead of five. But let's say
Yeah,
four
sure.
people.
Yeah, I get the concept. You're saying that these five people have the same function
Yes.
and they're in competition to gain the role, whatever.
Yes.
Again, what I'm trying to say is that like you're all doing like you're all important at the same level as like the overall success of the company and the overall success of your sales department is predicated on everyone succeeding. If you have one person who's the one left behind who's not doing well, the whole sales department isn't doing well,
Okay. But how would you
right?
feel
They're
as
not
one of the four
converting. They're not doing
people?
what.
Okay, but you are promoting collaborative
But
mindset.
okay, you're okay. So this is what I'm trying to say, right? Okay, this is also a good what I'm thinking about is a perfect example for this as well. You have five people. One of them gets promoted. Who is he leading?
The other four.
Who is he the manager
The other
of?
four.
Exactly. Exactly. So if you screw these other four over on the path to becoming the manager, are you going to be? Are you going to take like? Are they going to want to be managed by you?
Okay.
Right? Are like what I'm trying to say is the person who should win that position is the person who brings everybody up, who's helping the other salespeople get better at their craft, who's helping the other salespeople collaborate with others better. That person who ends up getting promoted will then have the support and unconditional like leadership of the other four, right? Like,
Yeah, makes
in some level, you have to collaborate. Like, our species is meant to collaborate because we're better together than we are separate. That's why we're building this community too, right? Like, we're better together than we are alone, like outcasted by society. By collecting this group of people who feel outcasted by society and want to make change and do social impact, we're building a community of people who could potentially found their a company or something that can help other people, right? Like, at the end of the day, yes, competition is important because it's ambition. Like I talked about in my early life, right? If I didn't have this other person in my life, I wouldn't have competed with him and then become better and become smarter and been capable of going to this university and doing all these things. It's important for us, for sure, to strive to be better and to compete against other people for that reason. But that doesn't mean we need to put them down when we're competing with them. Like, it doesn't mean we need to like try to bring someone down a step so that we can get better than them. We can all get better together. If these five, you were five, one of them becomes the manager, like, he's going up the corporate ladder, right? Whoever is actually supporting him as a manager will be able to climb up the ladder as well. Like, it's more, we're better off collaborating than we are fighting amongst ourselves. Because there's not much that separates us. Like, there isn't. There's way more that brings us together than separates us.
yeah. That's wise thought.
That's just the way that I was thinking, right? Like, I was like, dude, like, if me and my chemical engineering buddies started a company together, we would be so much better off than like competing for like a job at Chevron, right? Like, if we had built something together and tried to bring ourselves up together, we would be better off than me being alone at the top or someone else being alone at the top at one of these companies. Like, it's not like there's no knock on these people who are like going to these great companies and working in corporate. Like, do what you need to do and live your life. Like I don't have any beef with any of these people, but like we're better off together. And like, those people who went to those companies, they still have to collaborate with people, right? Like, they still have to work with people. If you work at, I don't know, if you work at a McKinsey, you still got to collaborate with other consultants. Like, you're still on a team of people, or you're consulting for somebody, and you need to be able to talk to that person at the level that they're at, not like, I'm better than you because I'm a top level consultant. Right? Like, if I'm hiring a consultant, I don't want to hear from this consultant, you need to make this XYZ changes because you're bad. Like, I'm not going to make the changes, or I'm not going to want to make the changes if they don't talk to me in the right way. Or I'm not going to want to work with this person if they don't talk to me in the right way.
That makes sense. And it's there is a
So that's the point of that.
yeah, there is like an example that I heard from a guy that I think it's pretty, that now that you were saying all these things brought came up to my mind. Basically, there was a group of like 4 or 5 guys that were all applying for a VC role. And so instead of like each one applying and compete with each other, they were preparing like interviews. They were preparing applications for one specific VC, all the four together, all the 5 people together. And also, if one person got the interview, they were preparing like the case study for the VC all together. So in case one of them got in, then he could put a referral for the other 4.
Refer everybody else.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so that's how.
That's a smart way to
Yeah,
do it.
yeah, that was pretty clever. And now you made me think about this example. Yeah. Okay.
But instead, like the way that I grew up is those five VCs guys would like try to like break each other's laptops so that they couldn't submit their resumes or
Pour
whatever. You know what I
water.
mean? Like when you exactly like it's just like that's the way that I grew up. It's like I'm gonna try to bring other people down. I'm gonna try to do whatever I possibly can to be the best, and that's not the way that the world should work. It's sometimes the way that the world works out of like necessity because we have so many people. But I don't think that that's how we should be trying to conduct our lives. Whatever role, whatever like part of life you're in. If you're an investor, you need a founder. If you're a founder, you need an investor. If you're a founder and there's another founder near you, you're not competing with each other for investors.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be.
Yeah, I agree.
Because if you are, both of you are not going to survive.
And if you come, if any founder comes to my cohort, was something that I always say, because we are very like following the DI principles. I make the same amount of introductions to founders and mentors to all the 5 companies in my cohort. So yeah, we follow DI. I have one last question, then you can add anything that I didn't ask you. Uh, there is a curiosity. I mean, so I think like the main thread of this podcast is like this collaborative mindset, and is like shift to be open, and all this like snowball effect. And you had the conversation with this person that you basically, when you had the conversation, you were like you stopped to go to be in the quicksand, and you were at the bottom in a solid aware bottom ground of your awareness, that you were in a bad spot. Then this guy came, like, talked to you, and he started to provide you some tools, some people to open up. I know it's not the ideal question, also I don't know why these balloons. Do you see the balloons? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I know maybe it's like it's kind of it's my silly curiosity, but this guy that you met, can we give a name to this guy? I mean, I think we are doing a compliment, so we should name this person.
Which guy?
The guy that opened up your perspective, that connected you with the group of friends that you had.
Um, I just want to protect people's
Okay,
privacy.
even if
Like I
it's positive.
haven't
Okay,
asked for his
okay,
permission to
okay, makes
reveal his
sense. Okay,
name.
okay, okay.
Um,
This angel, right, appeared only the day in your life, or you have had other conversations with him, but you were not in the space to be vulnerable enough, so for him to provide you the resources that you needed before.
yeah, I think like I didn't meet this person and this person instantly like changed my life, right? I'd known this person, been talking to this person as like a friend regularly all the time, but then like there was like a time where I like was just so at my rock bottom, and I was just like, it can't get any worse. Letting people know the situation that I'm in, and this person had been kind to me in the past, so I was like, I'm going to open up to this person because I want them to know a little bit about my situation, what's going on, like why I feel so bad. And yeah, that really changed my life. Like, really did. Um, yeah, it does. It like I don't think it was necessarily the person. Like they were a really kind person. What they did was awesome, but like it was just the fact that there was a person who I could confide in, who I could talk about my problems with, and like just talking about my problems, like it just revealed, it just opened up myself. Like like once I was honest with someone else about who I was and what was going on in my life, I can move on. I can like be honest with myself about who I was.
The diamond,
And
diamond we said last time. The
yeah, like what we talked about in your
yeah.
episode. Yeah. Once you're like honest with other people about who you are, like what like you mentioned to your friend, Like you got to this point where it's like, I just need to tell somebody about what's going on, and like how, like I need to figure out a way to get past what's going on. And like I talked to this person and confided in this person, and it instantly helped me realize who I am, like helped me provide clarity to myself. And once you acknowledge yourself, like the good, the bad, the ugly, like no one can hurt you. Like you can't go any further lower than who you are. Like no one else can think a bad, like when you're in that space, like the way that I thought about it was like, no one else can think worse of you than you think of yourself at that point in your life. And so it's like once I realize and acknowledge, okay, I was a bad person, or the things that I was doing was bad, or the people around me are bad, or whatever it is, right? Once I like provide myself that clarity, once I like realize to myself that that's going on, that's when you can begin to like, you can begin to change, you can begin to heal, you can begin to interact with people who are much better environment around you. So that's where it all began. It was like me being honest with myself, me being honest of like why I was doing self-worth, like placing my self-worth in my success, why I was doing comparing myself to other people, why I was letting these toxic people do these things to other people or myself, and like why I was letting them live in my head rent free. And like once I got to that point and I opened up to people, you're unstoppable. Like no one can hurt me once where people can see who I am. Once I acknowledge who I am and let them know who I am, and what are people going to say to me that I have not thought about myself at that point already? Right? Like they can't say anything worse than the way that I think about myself when you're at your lowest of lows, right? And like there's like this quote that I really like to think about. Like it's still something that I like always think about. If you ever watch Game of Thrones, highly recommend it. I mean, it
I don't
ended
watch
poorly,
anything. I
but
don't watch any. If you
the
anyone
first
refers with any
six.
movie or any series TV, like I only watch MasterChef. That's it. Not. I mean, maybe something else,
Okay,
but
yeah, I mean, we can talk about that later, but like, this is for people who have seen Game of
yeah.
Thrones or want to
Okay, I
watch
thought
Game
you
of
said if
Thrones.
you watched. I mean, like
Um,
not. But now I understand. You were saying if you watched. I say. I see. Person in the audience.
yeah, person in the audience. Um, there's this quote from Tyrion. So Tyrion is a dwarf. He was born in a rich family, but when he was born, he was a dwarf, and he killed his mom in childbirth. Right, and so that was like the darkness that he grew up with. Like people associated with him with the death, like his siblings, his dad, like they associated him with the death of their mother, that mother figure in their life. And he grew up like that, as well as a dwarf, right? In their time, in that setting, he's looked down upon because he's a dwarf. He's not strong enough to take care of himself. He's not strong enough to do anything. He's perceived as weak, perceived as less than others because he's a dwarf. And he like tells this other guy, Jon Snow, who's a bastard. He was born out of wedlock, which is also very looked down upon in their society. They can't carry title. They can't do a lot of things. He looks down upon him, or he looks to him, and he says, "Never forget who you are. Wear it like armor, and it can never be used to harm you or defeat you." I forgot the specific word, but he says like, "Never forget who you are, bastard." Like he says to Jon Snow, "You're a bastard. Like never forget who you are and what you are, because it can once you wear it like armor, no one else can use it to defeat you, to harm you." And that's what I think about all the time. It's like I am who I am, and no one else can take that away from me. And that's the way that I think about it, right? It's just like no one else could think worse about me than I think about myself. And I've come to that realization at that point in my life, and then I was just like, I'm going to change. Like I'm going to think about people differently. I'm going to not let my pride be my downfall. And I'm going to wear I'm going to wear my armor. of like people can't use what I already hate about myself against me. It can't be any worse than whatever I think about myself. And once you get to that point, you can't be stopped. Like you start to surround yourself with the people who are like you, and you start to grow, and things won't go wrong for you.
I think like there are two threads that you mentioned about yourself that I think are like probably the one of the main two threads of like these episodes. And first of all is like I think each of us is very sadistic towards themselves. And so in a way they are they probably don't enjoy the pain, but they are accepting the pain and like the negative side within ourselves is also like cultivating this pain. Like the self beliefs are like giving power, giving energy to this like pain and negativity. And then like there is a moment where like despite we're very sadistic like we say okay, like I cannot tolerate anymore the pain. And so I realized like hearing lots of stories now that we also have some episodes on our back end is like and I don't know why, but it seems like the common thread like only once you reach the rock bottom. We pick this word like very randomly when when we were describing the podcast, but like only once you reach the rock bottom, then you're able to climb up again
Climb back
the
up.
ladder. Like
Yeah.
there was no story where like the rise didn't start from the rock bottom. It was a pretty drastic rise from the rock bottom, not fall from the fall, but from the rock bottom. And so I feel like we are all sadistic, but like once we decided the pain is enough and we start to take action, that's where the rise starts, regardless of how bad the situation it is. And once we are very aware of ourselves, about our pain, about our like um, situation we experienced, we by admitting to ourselves and also maybe sharing it in a podcast, of course, when people are ready, it's a way to break free completely. Like me, like talking out loud about some memories was like my way of breaking free of them and really close them in the wardrobe of the past. And so you were saying something before, like the weaponization of some information. So some informations could be used as weapons against you. I feel like everyone that is putting information in a public podcast is like they weaponizing the information because we are all very aware, very okay with our past, without okay, how to say better, like a better word for okay, are very accepting our past because we are happy where we are today and our past shaped us for who we are today. So it's really depowering but to say it out loud to friends being vulnerable is not like putting us in a position of weakness of a position of weakness, but it's putting us in a position of strength because we are de weaponizing others and depowering the stigma inside us.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's the way that I think about it. What you said was perfect, but the way that I think about it is yeah, like you like I don't know. I give you a steel sword made out of my like shining armor. You can't use that sword to cut me down because I'm wearing the armor made out of the same material. Right?
Yeah.
I give you a piece of my armor and that you're part of me, right? You and I have shared something, and in that way you're now on my team. And if you try to weaponize it against me, you can't harm me with it because it's something that I already know about myself. And the way you think about the way you think negatively about me can't be worse than the way that I think about myself, hiding inside my armor.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah. There's like a lot of things we talked about, but hopefully you took something valuable away from my story. Um, and I really appreciate Davide for helping clarify some of the stuff and like also ask some really really good questions and insightful things breaking down the story. yeah, I think we're ready to wrap up the conversation. Any other last final remarks you have, Davide?
Thank you so much for sharing to us your story, and also like I know that when we also discuss it, they all seem like different pieces, but then I think you really found a common thread. And actually, when you talk a lot about some things, then I feel also it's a way to connect, to create this necklace where you connect all the different pearls. And so I think there is some magic happening. I didn't know that me and also you could come out with such an organic story. So I'm pretty happy about that. So yeah,
Yeah.
everyone who wants to join the podcast is
That's something
welcome.
that I've had some positive feedback on too. So, but yeah, we need more guests. We're always trying to record. We're always trying to upload some more podcasts. So if you want to share your story, comment in the YouTube and or reach out to us at our business email, youngoutcastspodcast@gmail.com. We're going to be starting to push out our social media campaign. These two episodes, Davide and my stories, will be up soon, and they're like the first episode 1A, 1B, and they kind of talk about our stories and why we're doing the podcast,
But
and lead into some of the other ones that we've already published, which are Thomas and Oscar. So give those a watch for sure.
we
All right. Well, this has been an episode of the Young Outcast podcast, episode 1B. If we call Davide's episode 1A. And yeah, it's been our stories. It's been my story on this one specifically. And yeah, hit us up. You have our socials. You will have our socials on YouTube. Um, and let us know if you're interested in sharing your story and breaking it down and trying to help create impact for other people.
thank you so much, Rohan, for sharing your story, and see you soon, everyone. Peace.
Bye.